Hey everyone, this is Exploring Fiction, and welcome back to another video. Hey, before we get to the video, check this out. 99% of my viewers are not subscribed. If you're a part of that 99%, please consider subscribing, as I would love to have you here. Anyway, let's get back to the video. So guys, as you know, the MCU has over 20 films, and while most of them, in my opinion, are great, and there are some clunkers in there are a lot of films that get overlooked to me and are very underrated. And so I just wanted to bring you a video where I name my top 5 underrated MCU films. And before we start, I just wanted to let you know that there's no real set of criteria for this. It's just my opinion on which 5 MCU films I think don't get enough love. So first is my honorable mention, Iron Man 2. And I know what you're thinking. This is generally regarded as one of the worst MCU movies, and I agree. When I first saw this film, I liked it because I was younger and I could overlook its flaws just because of the spectacle. But looking back now, I can see all those plot lines didn't all put into one movie did not really make for a great outcome. However, I named this as my honorable mention because of Sam Rockwell's performance as Justin Hammer. I think his performance as Justin Hammer absolutely made an unforgettable character, a great foil and rival to Tony Stark, who has as much snark as him, but is different because he lacks the heroic qualities of Tony Stark. And so Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer is a saving grace of Iron Man 2, and that's the reason why it's my honorable mention. At number 5, I have Thor. And now, Thor, when it originally came out, I loved this film, but I noticed that people have generally regarded this as one of the more boring MCU entries, along with its sequel, Thor the Dark World. And while for the latter, I believe that's true, this movie had more positives about it than I remember. The whole fish out of water storyline of Thor was great. The conflict between him and Loki was more interesting than between Thor and the Frost Giants. And while I remember when I first watched this movie being underwhelmed that one of the big battles of the movie was just between Thor and the Destroyer, looking back now I realize this movie wasn't as much about the big battles that we're used to at the end of MCU movies. Like, yes, Thor and Loki fight at the end, but that's not really that big either. This movie is about Thor losing his right to the throne because he's unworthy and regaining that at the end. And through hardships forced upon him by Odin, he becomes much more wise and ready to lead his people. At number 4, I have Avengers Age of Ultron. Many Marvel fans think that Age of Ultron treated Ultron incorrectly from the comics, and I'm just going to be flat out honest here. I do not know enough about Ultron in the comics to determine if that's true. However, what they did give us, I thought, was better than many people give it credit for. First of all, let me just say the colors in this movie and the contrast was really, really good. It was very different from most of the MCU films, but the colors really pop, and you can tell the heroes and villains apart from the backgrounds and from the side characters. So that was just something I noticed right off the bat. The Hulkbuster sequence was immaculate to me, and I love how they use Scarlet Witch to mess with the Avengers in the head. Now, the whole Hulk Black Widow budding romance, that part did not really wasn't really executed too well, in my opinion. I enjoy how Tony Stark and Bruce Banner also created the problem of Ultron when trying to solve a problem that should not be solved the way they did. So I like how they had to fight their own creation in Ultron. I thought that was all executed well. And so, and the twins being introduced and and they're joining the Avengers was another bright spot in this film. And so, for those reasons, I think Age of Ultron is better than many people believe. At number 3, I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So, when I first saw this movie back when it came out, and the days leading up to it before it came out, I was so hyped because I remember looking on Chris Pratt's Instagram, and he was hyping it up to be way better than the first one, maybe the best MCU film yet. And of course, I was probably too naive here, just because Chris Pratt was doing that to market the film. I was ready for my mind to be blown, and I originally was kind of disappointed by this film. But now looking back, having dropped my expectations since when I saw it in theaters, this film is actually a lot better than I remember. Yondu is the standout here, as his sacrifice and his characters throughout the whole thing really hold the movie together for me. The comedy is still great, as we expect from the Guardians of the Galaxy by now, and Baby Groot was adorable. The whole Taserface plotline, I hated it because you feel bad for Yondu, but it was executed well, and I like Rocket making fun of Taserface and how Taserface's mutiny ultimately leads to Yondu joining the Guardians. And one underrated character here is Kraglin, played by Sean Gunn. I thought that Kraglin was really kind of a standout minor character in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, and this time when he's gifted Yondu's fin and arrow, you really feel like it's earned and deserved, and you feel bad for him because of the loss of his boss and friend Yondu, but also good. And I hope we see a lot more of Kraglin in the future. At number 2, I have Iron Man 3. Now, Iron Man 3 is very polarizing because of the whole Mandarin thing, but let me just say, I think it's a little bit nostalgia on my ranking here, but Iron Man 3 I think is way, way overhated. So, first of all, I don't really mind the Mandarin thing. I like the idea of there being this villain who plays both terrorist with the Mandarin actor and hero once he acquires the Iron Patriot, and I like that whole idea of his scheme. And so that really was okay with me. I don't like Aldrich Killian claiming the title of Mandarin after they find out that Trevor Slattery is an actor. However, I like the concept in theory, and it doesn't bother me like a lot of other people. And I also, even though it is an Iron Man movie, I like seeing Tony outside the suit being heroic when he teams up with that kid and makes all those inventions to sneak into Killian's headquarters. I thought that was good too, and the whole extremis powers and plotline with Pepper kind of petered out at the end. I like the final battle with all the suits and Tony finally moving on, so to say, from his obsession with the suits as a coping mechanism. That was executed well. And so I think Iron Man 2 is severely overhated because of the whole Mandarin actor debacle, but if that doesn't bother you like for me, how it doesn't bother me that much, I think this film is really enjoyable and has a lot to bring to the table. But coming in at number 1 on my top underrated MCU film is Captain America: The First Avenger. I don't know why this film gets overlooked so much, and I wouldn't say it really gets too much hate, but it's just so overlooked. I never hear anyone talking about it, and I really, really, really love this film. Steve's character arc in this film alone is just exceptional. From him being the little guy who doesn't who just wants to serve others and serve his country, but physically can't, and once he's gifted those abilities because of his attitude, he uses them for good. That character arc is just inspiring and done to perfection in the film. Meanwhile, his relationship with Peggy, I thought was very endearing, and you feel really bad at the end when he puts the plane under. Tommy Lee Jones' character as Captain America's superior in the army was great. I thought he was a great character for comedic purposes. All of his one-liners made me chuckle. I think that this film did a great job implementing the Captain America comic suit by using it as a promotional thing on Captain America's campaign tour. And I think Red Skull, played by Hugo Weaving, was done very well, and Zola, as a matter of fact. And I thought this, as the origins of Hydra, was done really well, and the futuristic technology not being too out of place in this World War II timeline was also a impressive feat to pull off. So, of course, really here the backbone for me in this movie is Steve's character arc and just how uncorruptible of a person he is. Just watching this character, you can root for the whole way. And while he still has flaws in the fact that sometimes he goes too far in fighting for the things he believes in and for the people he loves, you still find him to be just an incorruptible character, someone you can root for the whole way, but not someone who's unrelatable or overpowered. And so for that reason, I think Captain America: The First Avenger is the most underrated MCU film to date. So guys, what did you think of my list? Let me know below with a comment. Leave a list of your 5 most underrated MCU films. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you're new. And I will see you all next time.